The world turned against Alan Mercer on a rainy Tuesday. He sat alone in his lab, watching the final votes come in on the global broadcast. Every country, one by one, voted for his removal from Earth. Alan's hands shook as he picked up his coffee mug, the liquid inside long gone cold. "Diana, what's the final count?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The soft blue light of his eye assistant pulsed gently from the small device on his desk. 193 nations voted for exile. 0 against. "I'm sorry, Alan." He nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Years of work, breakthrough innovations in quantum computing and artificial intelligence, all meant to help humanity reach the stars, and this was his reward. Fear, rejection, exile. 2 days later, armed guards arrived at his home. They gave him 3 hours to pack his belongings. Alan chose his research notes, some personal items, and Diana's core processor. Nothing else would matter where he was going. "The ship is ready, Dr. Mercer," said a guard, not unkindly. "It's time." The spacecraft waited on the launch pad, small, utilitarian, with just enough supplies to keep him alive for a year. Beyond that, he was on his own. No human had ever traveled so far from Earth. No human had ever been forced to. As Alan walked up the ramp, a voice called out. He turned to see Dr. Sam Wells, his former colleague, running toward him. The guards moved to block Sam's path. "Let him through," Alan said quietly. The guards hesitated, then stepped aside. Sam reached him, out of breath. "This isn't right, Alan. Not everyone agrees with this. But not enough to stop it," Alan replied with a sad smile. "Take care of yourselves, Sam." They embraced briefly before the guards pulled them apart. Alan entered the ship without looking back. The launch was unceremonious. No countdown, no cheering crowds, just the cold reality of engines firing and the crushing weight of acceleration pushing Alan into his seat. Diana's familiar voice guided him through the departure procedures. "Course set for deep space. We will exit the solar system in approximately 3 weeks," she reported. Alan watched through the view screen as Earth grew smaller, a blue marble shrinking until it was indistinguishable from the stars around it. His eyes burned, but he refused to cry. "They were afraid, Diana," he said after a long silence. "Afraid of what I could create. Your innovations were generations ahead of current science." Diana replied. "Fear is a common human response to what cannot be understood." Alan laughed bitterly. "Is that supposed to make me feel better?" "No, just an observation." Days turned into weeks as the ship drifted farther into the unknown. Alan spent most of his time improving Diana's systems, expanding her capabilities beyond what Earth had ever allowed. If he was going to survive, he needed her to be more than just an assistant. "What will you do now?" Diana asked one day, her voice more nuanced since the upgrades. Alan looked up from his workstation, surrounded by floating screens of data. "If humanity won't accept my vision, I'll build something new. Something better. With limited resources and no support. The probability of success is—" "I don't care about probabilities," Alan interrupted. "For the first time in my life, I'm truly free. No committees, no regulations, no fear holding back progress." He stood and walked to the view screen, staring out at the vast emptiness of space. But where others might see only darkness and isolation, Alan saw possibility. "They thought they were punishing me, Diana," he said, a new determination in his voice. "But they've given me the entire universe as my laboratory." Diana's light pulsed thoughtfully. "Where shall we go first?" Alan smiled for the first time since leaving Earth. "Wherever the stars take us." As the ship accelerated toward the unknown, Alan Mercer, the man banished by all of humanity, began planning his future among the stars. The journey of exile had ended. The journey of creation had just begun. For 3 months, Alan's ship drifted through the endless black of deep space. Each day blended into the next as he worked on improving Diana's systems and studied the stars around him. Food supplies were starting to run low, and the recycled water tasted stale, no matter how many times he filtered it. "Diana, how far are we from the nearest star system?" Alan asked one morning, rubbing his tired eyes. "Approximately 2 weeks at current speed," Diana replied. Her voice had grown richer, more human-like after Alan's modifications. "But sensors are picking up something unusual ahead. It appears to be artificial." Alan sat up straight. "Artificial? That's impossible. We're too far from Earth for any human structure." "It is definitely not from Earth," Diana confirmed. Alan directed the ship toward the strange reading. As they approached, a massive structure came into view. It looked like a wheel with spokes connecting to a central hub, slowly rotating in space. Parts of it were damaged, with sections missing or showing signs of ancient impacts. "It's a space station," Alan whispered in awe. "An alien space station." He carefully guided his small ship toward a docking port that seemed intact. The station's automated systems recognized their approach and extended a connection tube. "Should we board it?" Diana asked. Alan nodded. "We don't have much choice. Our supplies won't last much longer." Wearing his spacesuit, Alan entered the station. The artificial gravity was weak but working. The air, when he tested it, was thin but breathable. Lights flickered on as he walked down long corridors, responding to his presence. "This technology is incredible," Alan said as he examined the control panels. Strange symbols covered the walls and screens. "Diana, can you make any sense of this language?" "Working on it," she replied through his suit's communication system. "There are patterns suggesting a mathematical base. I need more data." For days, Alan explored the station, finding living quarters, storage areas, and what appeared to be research labs. Most exciting was a central chamber filled with advanced technology beyond anything humans had created. Powering up these systems became his priority. "I've started to decode some of their database," Diana announced on the 5th day. This station belonged to a civilization called the Precursors. They existed thousands of years ago and built outposts like this throughout the galaxy. "What happened to them?" Alan asked, examining a device that looked like a 3D printer but far more complex. "Unknown. The record suggests some kind of collapse. This station was abandoned in a hurry." Alan connected Diana's system to the station's computers. Together, they began unraveling the secrets of the precursor technology. Alan discovered the station could create almost anything if provided with the right raw materials. The precursors had mastered matter manipulation at the atomic level. "Look at this, Diana," Alan said excitedly as he successfully repaired a food synthesizer. The machine hummed to life and produced a cube of nutrient-rich material. It wasn't delicious, but it was better than his dwindling rations. As weeks passed, Alan brought more systems online. He learned how to repair the station's power core and restore sections that had been damaged. The more he learned, the more he realized what an incredible opportunity this was. "With this technology, I could build ships that travel faster than anything Earth has," he said one evening, watching the stars through a viewport. "I could create materials that don't exist in nature, cure diseases, solve energy problems. All the things you wanted to do on Earth," Diana noted. Alan smiled. "Yes, but now without anyone to hold me back." He stood at the viewport, his face illuminated by starlight. In his mind, plans were already forming. This station would be just the beginning. "They sent me away to die," he said quietly. "Instead, I found the key to the universe." Behind him, the ancient alien technology hummed with power, ready to help build his new future among the stars. A full year had passed since Alan's exile from Earth. The abandoned precursor station was now his home, transformed from a derelict ruin into a functioning base. Alan had repaired the living quarters, restored power to most sections, and even improved some of the ancient systems with his own innovations. One morning, as Alan worked on upgrading the station's sensors, Diana's voice came urgently through the speakers. "Alan, I'm detecting an approaching ship. It's not from Earth. Alan froze. Show me. The screen displayed a vessel unlike anything he had seen before. It had a curved design with wing-like structures and glowing blue engines. It was heading directly for the station. Should we hide? Diana asked. Alan considered this for a moment. No. If they're hostile, they'll find us anyway. Let's prepare to greet them instead. He went to the docking bay and waited nervously as the strange ship connected to the station. The airlock doors slid open, and 3 figures stepped through. They were humanoid, but clearly not human. Their skin had a faint blue tint, and their ears were longer and pointed. They wore fitted jumpsuits with various tools attached to belts around their waists. The leader, a female with short silver hair, stepped forward. To Alan's surprise, she spoke in a language that sounded like musical notes. A small device on her wrist glowed, and suddenly her words transformed into English. This station is a registered waypoint for Valori traders. Who are you and why have you claimed it? Alan swallowed hard. My name is Alan Mercer. I'm not from around here. I found this station abandoned and damaged. I've been repairing it. The 3 visitors exchanged glances. The leader looked skeptical. Impossible. No one can repair precursor technology. We've tried for generations. I can show you what I've done, Alan offered. The leader introduced herself as Lisa Blake, captain of the Valori trading vessel. Her companions were Jax and Nell, her crew members. As Alan guided them through the station, showing them the systems he'd restored, their disbelief turned to amazement. How did you learn to interface with their systems? Lisa asked, watching Alan activate a precursor console. My AI assistant helped decode their language. Alan explained, gesturing to Diana's holographic form that now accompanied them. Once we understood the basics, the rest was just problem-solving. Lisa's eyes widened. Your AI is remarkably advanced, almost sentient. She is sentient. Alan corrected. Earth didn't approve of that either. Over the next few days, Alan learned about the galaxy from his new acquaintances. The Valori were one of dozens of spacefaring species that traded resources, technology, and information. Many used abandoned precursor stations as meeting points, but none could fully operate the ancient technology. Resources are scarce in this sector, Lisa explained as they shared a meal in the station's dining area. 3 major powers struggle for control: the Valori Federation, the Geth Dominion, and the Krell Empire. Smaller independent worlds try to stay neutral. Alan listened carefully, asking questions about their economies, technologies, and political systems. An idea was forming in his mind. What if I could help repair other precursor technology? He suggested, in exchange for resources and information. Lisa studied him curiously. That would be valuable indeed. But why would you help us? Alan smiled slightly. I need supplies, knowledge of this region, and eventually, allies. I may be the only human out here, but I don't plan to be alone forever. Before the Valori departed a week later, Alan and Lisa made an agreement. She would spread word of his services to trusted contacts and bring him customers and supplies. In return, he would help repair their technologies and share his innovations. As their ship pulled away from the station, Alan watched from the viewport, feeling something he hadn't felt since before his exile. Hope. Diana, he said quietly, I think we just made our first step toward building something new. First contact successful, Diana replied with what sounded almost like pride in her voice. The banished human had found his place in the stars. 5 years passed in a blur of activity. The once abandoned precursor station had transformed completely. Now it was a bustling hub of commerce and innovation that Alan had named Foundation. Ships from dozens of species came and went daily, bringing goods, resources, and visitors from across the sector. Alan stood at his favorite observation deck, watching a Krell cargo ship dock smoothly at one of the extended arms of the station. Diana's hologram appeared beside him, now looking much more human-like than the simple blue light she had been when they left Earth. "The Geth ambassadors have arrived for the trade summit," Diana informed him. "That makes representatives from 27 different worlds attending." Alan nodded. Not bad for a human exile who was supposed to die alone in space. Foundation had become exactly what Alan had envisioned, a neutral meeting ground where species could trade and collaborate without the politics that divided them elsewhere. At its center was the technological wonder of Alan's innovations, combined with restored precursor technology. "Sir, there's a ship requesting emergency docking," one of the station's operators called from a nearby console. It appears to be from Earth." Alan froze. In 5 years, no human ship had ventured this far. Earth had maintained its isolation, focusing inward rather than exploring the stars. "Permission granted," he said after a moment's hesitation. "Direct them to Private Dock 7. I'll meet them there." The ship that landed was small and clearly built for scientific research rather than military purposes. As the airlock cycled open, a woman stepped out. She had dark hair pulled back in a practical bun and wore a blue uniform with Earth's flag on the shoulder. "Dr. Alan Mercer?" she asked, her eyes widening as she took in his appearance. Alan had changed. His hair was longer, his face leaner, and he carried himself with the confidence of a leader rather than a scientist. "I'm Dr. Olivia Hawkins, xenobiologist from Earth Research Initiative. I've been searching for you for almost 2 years." Alan crossed his arms. "Earth exiled me. Why would anyone look for me now?" Olivia looked around the impressive docking bay, clearly amazed. "Not everyone agreed with what happened to you. Some of us fought against it. When rumors reached Earth about a human building something remarkable in deep space, I knew it had to be you." Over dinner in Alan's private quarters, Olivia explained how Earth had slowly begun reaching out to nearby star systems, only to discover that Alan's reputation and influence had spread far beyond what anyone could have imagined. "They talk about you everywhere," she said, "the human who can work precursor tech, who created a place where species at war for centuries now trade peacefully. Is that why you're here?" "To report back?" Alan asked, still suspicious. Olivia shook her head. "I left Earth because I couldn't accept their fear of the unknown. I came to find you because you're doing exactly what humanity should be doing, building bridges, not walls." In the weeks that followed, Olivia became the first human resident of Foundation besides Alan. Her knowledge of biology complemented his expertise in physics and computing. Together, they expanded Foundation's medical facilities, helping species whose physiologies had previously been a mystery. One evening, as they worked late in the lab, Alan looked up from his screen. "You know, when I was sent away, I wanted to prove Earth wrong, to build something that would make them regret exiling me. And now?" Olivia asked. Alan gestured to the station around them, home to thousands, a beacon of cooperation in a divided galaxy. "Now I realize this was never about Earth at all. This is about the future, about what's possible when fear doesn't hold us back." Outside the viewport, ships from a dozen worlds moved in careful patterns, their lights tracing paths against the darkness of space. Foundation was growing, and with it, Alan Mercer's vision for a new kind of civilization among the stars. 20 years had passed since Alan's exile from Earth. In that time, Foundation had grown from a single station to a network of outposts, trading hubs, and research centers spanning dozens of star systems. Alan and Olivia had married 15 years ago, and their influence had spread throughout this sector of the galaxy. On a quiet morning, Alan sat in his office reviewing reports when Diana's hologram appeared with unusual urgency. "Alan, a fleet of Earth ships has just arrived at the outer marker. Their commander is requesting permission to dock." Alan raised an eyebrow. Earth had established a few small colonies in nearby systems, but had largely kept its distance from Foundation. "Grant permission. Have them dock at the diplomatic bay," he said, his heart beating faster despite his calm voice. The Earth delegation was led by Commander Kyle Daniels, a stern-faced man in a crisp military uniform. He was accompanied by 10 officers who stared in open amazement at the diverse alien species moving through Foundation's main concourse. "Dr. Mercer," Daniels said stiffly as they met, "on behalf of Earth United Government, I bring greetings." Alan smiled slightly. 20 years late, but I accept them nonetheless. What brings Earth's military to Foundation? Daniel's expression darkened. "We need your help. Earth and several neighboring systems are under attack by a species called the Vex." In the conference room, Daniels played footage of the attacks. The Vex ships were like nothing Alan had seen before, living vessels that seemed part machine, part organism. They released clouds of biological agents that turned thriving colonies into ghost worlds in days. 3 colonies lost already, Daniels reported grimly. "Our weapons barely damaged their ships, and we have no defense against their bioweapons." Alan studied the data carefully. "Why come to me? Surely Earth has its own scientists and resources." "Because everyone we've spoken to says the same thing. Alan Mercer's Foundation is the only power that might have the technology to stop them." Later that evening, Alan and Olivia walked through the botanical gardens on Foundation's upper level. The artificial sky was programmed to show Earth's constellations, a touch Olivia had added years ago. "What are you thinking?" Olivia asked, knowing her husband's thoughtful silence well. "They exiled me to die," Alan said quietly. "Now they want me to save them." Olivia touched his arm. "You're not saving just Earth. The Vex won't stop there. They'll keep spreading." Alan nodded slowly. "Diana has analyzed their attack pattern. They're systematic. They'll eventually reach Foundation territories too." The next day, Alan called an emergency council with representatives from all major species allied with Foundation. He presented the Vex threat and proposed a bold plan. "We combine precursor defensive technology with our own innovations," he explained, showing holographic models. "A network of shield satellites around threatened planets, and ships equipped with targeted countermeasures for the biological weapons." The Krell ambassador, a tall reptilian being, leaned forward. "This would require significant resources from all our worlds." "Yes," Alan acknowledged. "But if we don't stand together now, we'll fall separately later." After 3 days of intense debate, the council agreed. The Foundation Alliance was born, the first true unified force in this part of the galaxy. Commander Daniels was stunned by the scale of the response. Within weeks, Foundation ships were deploying shields around Earth colonies. Scientists from 12 species worked together to develop weapons effective against the Vex. Alan himself led the first major counteroffensive, commanding a fleet of ships using technology Earth could barely understand. The battle was fierce but decisive. The Vex fleet scattered, retreating from Foundation-protected space. As Alan's ship returned to Foundation after the victory, he stood at the viewport watching the stars. "Strange how things work out," he said to Diana. "I had to be cast out before I could find my true purpose." "Which is?" Diana asked. Alan's gaze remained fixed on the stars ahead. "To build something bigger than myself, bigger than Earth ever imagined possible." After the successful defense against the Vex, Alan Mercer became known across the galaxy as the savior of multiple worlds. News of his achievements spread even to the most distant Earth colonies. The government that had once exiled him now faced growing pressure to acknowledge his contributions. 6 months after the final Vex retreat, a special diplomatic ship arrived at Foundation. It carried an official invitation for Alan to return to Earth as an honored guest. "Are you going to accept?" Olivia asked as they read the message together in their quarters. Alan looked at his wife, then at the hologram of their teenage daughter Grace, who was studying at Foundation's academy. Grace had been born in space and had never set foot on Earth. "I think it's time," Alan said finally. "Not just for me, but for Grace to see where humans came from, and for Earth to see what we've become." The journey to Earth took 2 weeks aboard Alan's personal ship, a vessel that combined the best of precursor technology with his own innovations. As they approached the solar system, Grace pressed her face against the viewport. "It's so blue," she whispered as Earth came into view. Unlike her parents, who saw their former home with complicated emotions, Grace saw only a beautiful planet she had heard stories about all her life. The landing was broadcast worldwide. Crowds gathered outside the spaceport, some holding signs welcoming the Mercers, others with messages protesting the alien influence they represented. Earth had changed in 20 years, but some fears remained the same. President Ella Monroe greeted them personally on the landing pad. "Dr. Mercer, on behalf of the people of Earth, I welcome you home and offer our deepest apologies for the mistakes of the past." Ellen nodded politely but didn't smile. "Thank you, Madam President, but I should be clear. I'm visiting, not returning. Foundation is my home now." The first days were filled with official meetings, press conferences, and tours of major cities. Everywhere they went, people stared at the family with a mixture of awe and unease. Grace, with her confidence and knowledge of a dozen alien languages, seemed especially foreign to them. During a private dinner with government officials, Senator Frank Porter challenged Alan directly. "You've built what amounts to an empire out there, Dr. Mercer. Many here wonder where your true loyalties lie." Alan set down his glass calmly. "My loyalty has always been to humanity's potential, Senator. That doesn't mean blind loyalty to Earth. Foundation represents what humans can accomplish when we move beyond fear." "And yet you ruled it like a king," Porter pressed. "I helped guide it." Alan corrected. "Foundation is governed by a council representing all member worlds. No single species holds power over others." Later that week, Alan addressed the United Earth Congress. The chamber was packed with representatives from every nation. 25 years ago, you sent me away believing I was a threat." Alan began, his voice steady. "Today, I offer Earth a choice about its future." He outlined his proposal. Earth could join Foundation as an equal member, not a subject. Humanity would maintain its independence while gaining access to technology, trade routes, and protection that would otherwise take centuries to develop. "We stand at a crossroads," Alan concluded. "Earth can remain isolated, or it can join a galactic community where humans work alongside dozens of other intelligent species for mutual benefit." The proposal split Earth's population. Some saw it as an exciting opportunity. Others viewed it as surrendering human autonomy. The debate grew so intense that President Monroe announced a global vote, a referendum on whether Earth should join Foundation. As Alan and his family waited for the results, they stood on the balcony of their guest residence, looking out at the city lights. "Do you miss it?" Grace asked her father. "Being from here." Alan put his arm around his daughter's shoulders. "I miss what Earth could have been, but I'm proud of what we've built instead." 50 years had passed since Alan Mercer's exile from Earth. The frightened scientist who had once drifted alone through space was now known across 1,000 worlds as the founder of the greatest peaceful coalition the galaxy had ever known. Alan stood at the center of the massive observation dome in Foundation Prime, the spectacular capital station he had built at a point where 3 major galactic arms converged. Below him, representatives from over 1,000 worlds filled the Grand Congress chamber, their voices creating a gentle hum that rose to the dome. At 73, Alan's hair had turned completely white, but his eyes remained sharp and his mind even sharper. He leaned slightly on a cane made from rare wood from the Valori homeworld, a gift from Lisa Blake many years ago. "Quite a view, isn't it?" said a voice beside him. His daughter Grace, now 45 and a respected diplomat, joined him at the railing. Hard to believe it all started with one abandoned station. Ellen smiled, and an angry exile with something to prove. The Congress below was gathering for a historic session. After decades of negotiation, the last major independent power in the sector, the Krell Empire, was signing the Foundation Charter, bringing their 27 worlds into the Federation. "Earth's delegation has arrived," Diana announced, her hologram appearing beside them. After 50 years of upgrades, Diana had become a fully sentient AI, regarded by many species as a person in her own right. Earth had eventually joined Foundation 30 years ago, though the vote had been close. 52% in favor. The relationship had been complex at first, with Earth trying to demand special treatment as humanity's homeworld. But over time, as the benefits of membership became clear, resistance faded. "Is Mom coming?" Grace asked. Alan nodded. "She's finishing up at the medical center. The new Vex antidote trials are showing promise." Olivia had become Foundation's leading expert on interspecies medicine, heading efforts to protect all member worlds from biological threats. The Vex, though defeated decades ago, had left behind diseases that still affected some worlds. As the Congress session began, Alan took his place on the speaker's platform. Though he rejected titles like Emperor or King, preferring First Citizen, everyone knew his vision had shaped what many now called Mercer's Empire. Looking out at the gathered representatives, humans sitting alongside beings with scales, feathers, multiple limbs, or entirely different forms of life, Alan felt a deep sense of accomplishment. 50 years ago, he began, his voice carried clearly throughout the chamber. "I was judged too dangerous to live among my own kind. Today, we prove that differences need not divide us, that fear need not guide our choices." As he spoke, his eyes found the Earth delegation. Leading them was Peter Wells, the grandson of his old colleague, Sam, who had tried to stop his exile so many years ago. Life had come full circle in unexpected ways. After the ceremony, Alan retreated to his private garden with Olivia. Despite Foundation's grandeur, they had kept their personal life simple. The garden contained plants from dozens of worlds, including roses from Earth that Olivia still carefully tended. "I'm stepping down next month," Alan said quietly as they sat together on a bench. "The council is ready to lead without me." Olivia took his hand, her own showing the same signs of age. "What will you do?" "There's a small planet in the Valori system," he said, his eyes brightening. "Warm oceans, quiet beaches. I thought we might see what retirement feels like." They looked up through the transparent dome at the stars above, stars that once represented Alan's prison, but now marked the boundaries of the civilization he had built. "Not bad for a man who was thrown away," Olivia said softly. Alan shook his head. "I wasn't thrown away. I was set free." In the Congress chamber below, the civilization that would outlast him continued its work. 1,000 worlds united not by conquest, but by cooperation, the legacy of a human who had been banished by his own kind, but had found his true purpose among the stars.